Charlie Kirk was the moderate. You have any idea what's out there? You think that was like the radical position? And what do you think? You think this is a victory? Like for you? I mean, do you think that is likely to calm things down? And what the fuck, these dumbass fucking lefties celebrating? Like, what exactly are you trying to start here, you fucking pussies? The right wing is so much tougher. So much tougher. Like, if this ever came down to a fight, the fight is right-wingers mowing down gender studies majors.
Trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to a very awesome Sunday. I'm your boy, David Lilly, aka Pardon Will. Like and subscribe. Ya jabronis. It's going to be a wild one today. If you haven't noticed, I started this live stream off with a little bit different clip. Kind of sums up a little bit of my mood. And so tonight we're going to talk about free speech. And I've got some thoughts, and some of my thoughts might be completely abhorrent and awful and wrong. So to help with that, I brought my good friend, Alex Rainiello. Alex, what's going on, dude?
Throwing gasoline on the fire this weekend, brother. How are you?
Yeah, dude, it's been a bit of that. I've got blood in my mouth from biting my tongue so many times. But it's a Christian ethic. I really spent some time with Jesus of really just asking, what would you allow me to do? And I was kind of like, what's okay here? What's okay in this realm? And I want to talk a lot about, dude, I'm going to be bringing up Jesus a lot because I'm going to need him tonight. Yeah. But really the topic, and I named this the episode At What Cost, because I want to talk about the cost of free speech in regards to how we deal with political events, people, and reactions, because that's the thing that really got me. Mm-hmm. Like Charlie being assassinated. Okay, yeah. Like, I understand these things it's horrific, and I understand this happened. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are like, well, we'll get into it, but it's a lot of the reactions that kind of, the reactions from the left and the right that kind of just started to make my head spin a little bit. And I had to start asking questions to myself, some serious questions I have never had to approach, like when to draw the line between me and someone I know. And that, it was like deep existential questions this week, man. How was your week? I should probably ask.
I saw a lot of death to Whitey on the internet between Wednesday and Friday.
Yeah.
No, it was a heavy week. It was a busy week. We always go through the trials and tribulations of our weekly to-do list, but when the Satanists on high, have orchestrated plans to put things in your face through the news and, the trauma-based mind control, it just adds to the perplexity of the week. So I've been on a kind of emotional roller coaster. I'm sure you have in the same way. And tonight's, I think, as we alluded to, is going to be a little bit of a somber episode just to get down to brass tacks.
Yeah, and I kind of want to just dive straight into it. And I think I want to start with the Charlie thing, mm-hmm. And then move to I messed her name up. What was her name again?
Iryna Zarutska.
Iryna Zarutska. I put her in the title and all that. I want to talk about her as well because
not enough. It's not enough.
Yeah. I want to talk about that in a minute, but let's first address. So I played a clip right after the intro. It's Dave Smith talking. It was part of his episode talking about Charlie Kirk. Mm-hmm. And there was so many different aspects. So one of the things I saw immediately after Charlie was a lot of people being like, well, we don't know he was left. You can't blame the left for this. And everyone was like, the left's always the one who is violent. And I was like, that's fine. I'm not a collectivist. So I rarely take one thing one lefty says and go, well, they're all like that. Because the left and right paradigm has always been a little fuzzy. And the ideals behind them shift, because we saw like in 2020 the left was like, no, free speech is dangerous, grandma could get sick, and then on the right it was like, no, we're free speech now. And now everything's kind of shifting and moving and melding, and I think it's getting hard to decipher, for myself included. So I want to definitely chat about that. What was the most surprising thing from the Charlie thing? What's the one thing that you were thinking about after this assassination?
Yeah, I mean, we're recording here on a Sunday night, Eastern Standard Time, around 9 o'clock. So we've had about 4 days to kind of digest what's happened. I've seen everything under the sun the past, 96 hours or whatever it's been. Um, I've seen a lot of death threats. I've seen a lot of, hypocrisy on both sides of disallowing, the cancellation of one another, by force. I think that the most disparaging thing is the one that's out in the open. It's just like people celebrating the death of a 31-year-old with two newborns. Like that's
Yeah.
the most blatant, like humanistic, like baseline quality that's like you just don't go there. Um, Obviously we'll get into kind of some of the free speech maximalism in this episode, but I think that there I still cling on to the idea that as heinous and awful and dehumanizing people have been this past week on both sides going at one another, I still think that it has to happen because we need to air our laundry as this kind of evolution goes into full force, coming on the doorstep of the 250th anniversary of this country. So there's definitely a lot of pent up aggression that just seems to be out in the open now. But it definitely feels like there's a manufactured race war kind of sitting in the wings. And, of course, like Israel will have a piece in that and will sprinkle in their fairy dust of
Every time.
every fucking time. It's
Every time.
death, taxes, and Israel infiltration.
Yeah, God, Constance. It's wild, man.
I don't want to ramble too much. We got lots to get into, but yeah, those
Yeah.
are my most immediate thoughts. Not 4 days removed from everything that I've seen.
Yeah, and yeah, no, that was the thing too, because I was like, as I processed everything, I'm guilty of this, man. I was like, all right, I'm upset. Like this is bad. Like
Yep.
this is a bad thing for the country. But again, I was like, this is worse than Trump being shot at. But even then, I came out and I was like, that was bad. Like this is a bad sign.
Yeah.
And then I remember reverting back to an episode I did before that. It was like in February, March before the election of the election year. And I remember covering an NBC thing where a guy wrote a book called White Rural Rage. And he was like, this is going to cover like why all these middle of white Americans are so mad. And I remember doing a whole episode being like, where are they? They're not mad. I was like, the only thing I see is Patriot Front and they're feds. Like, I don't see a single rural rate. They're out planting potatoes. And I just remember like, they're not mad. And then when Trump got shot at, I was like, they're trying to set off a powder keg because they never got the white man riots and the right wing riots that they wanted. Because every time we go, all right, show me a Republican violence. And they're like, well, J6. And you're like, oh man, that's literally it. Like that's
and
all
son of a
got.
bitch, they forgot all their guns.
Yeah, I know. And it's so you automatically have this setup being like, yeah, they're not violent. They're just not violent. And then after Trump got shot at, I remember sitting down being like, this isn't about. I mean, yeah, it's about taking Trump out, but it's about trying to set people off. And I remember holding on to that. And as soon as this thing happened Wednesday, I was like, there it is. Like there it is. And then the reaction as I watched it unfold. I was like, oh, this is bad. Now, Alex, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. As I was watching it unfold and people getting madder and madder and madder online, I wasn't mad about that. I was like, that seems pretty fair.
Yep.
And the more and more I thought about it, and at first I was like, but cooler heads need to prevail. I don't want anything to be bad. And then came the lefties posts and the videos. And I spent all week just bookmarking and archiving them into insanity, dude. My eyes were like so furiously red because I was like, I need to prep for this episode coming up. So these are viral clips. I'll go and save them. And then I had too many, dude. I had too many.
Yep.
Like, and that has never, dude. I did this show for a while. I've been like, oh man, I need one more clip. What do I got? And I was overloaded, and I only like have a few brought up because I don't even know which ones to choose at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane, and I was like, this is worse. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself.
I felt that sentiment though. It feels like there's been a flood in the algorithms on both sides to kind of foment this too. I think that it's been fodder for the left because it's like, well, you live by the sword, die by the sword. This guy was a gun nut. He
I
was
got a lot
a
of that.
patriot. He was this ultra Zionist that had no problem watching Gazans get slaughtered. I get all that. But even that aside, it's like he was still murdered in cold blood in front of his kids and his wife for his opinions.
Yeah.
At least, and that's what was told of us too. Now, the last 24 hours, I know that there's been a lot of leaks into some of the back channel intel with the Israeli involvement on both Clinton Russell's show and a few other outlets as well. I think Glenn Greenwald alluded to it as well.
Harrison
just
Ford
an update. Harrison
broke that.
Yeah. So there'll be ties. There'll be times to tie those loose ends together the next few days. I think that's really like the most juicy component to this. Tucker's been pretty silent as of late. I know that I mean. I think something we may want to touch on too is talking about Ben Shapiro's comments as well, because he had a totally different tune than everybody else. That was
wild.
Yeah, wild,
dude. You couldn't have written this in a script better. Like, it was just like, well, all of these, it was everything predictable. But the one thing, and so I got in this conversation with a buddy because he was he's pretty quick. He's a noticer, so he was pretty quick. Like, I know who's behind this. And I was like, yeah, I get it. Like, Israel's always behind, and I'm pretty not like, I entertain, like, all right, show me what you got, and they'll show me, but like, all right, some of this is pretty convincing. But the thing that I bucked up against him was, I was like, even if you take your conspiracy or whatever it is, or your assumption, or you're noticing, hypothetically, if this particular country was behind the assassination, they're not behind the hundreds of videos I archived. Who's behind that?
No.
Like, who's behind that? And dude, and I know, and you brought up the algorithm thing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the same thing. I was like, this is just my algorithm. Except for when I went to other social media and it was people I knew that I'm like acquaintances with. And I was like, well, this isn't a bot.
Some of that's chicken
like
and the egg, though. Yeah.
I mean, but these are sentiments. So the one you brought up specifically, like, live by the sword, die by the sword. He was about two-way. So I mean, he said, casualties happen. I was like, are you going to say the same thing if I get shot? Because I'm a gun guy.
Yeah.
Like, so is this the same sentiment, or is it just because he's a right-wing Republican guy?
Right.
Me and him share a ton of similar beliefs.
Right.
The 2A being one of them. And so it was just a lot of that where I was like, I know there's a bunch of bots, but these videos aren't bots, and these people that I know aren't bots. And so this is a real sentiment. And even if there's a conspiracy about who shot Charlie, all right, who's puppeting all of these people who are celebrating it, and dancing on it, and that's the part that chills me down. I've got. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and there's been rumors and speculation with anybody who's been able to screenshot successfully the Amazon post, the listing with the book, September 9th. Who killed Charlie Kirk, yada yada. I think there's definitely something that's interesting to kind of jump into as a rabbit hole. But even the Tyler Robinson, prospect too. Like, I don't believe for a second that it was him, for the simple fact that you look at the side by side photos, different nose, different shoes, different build. He had clearly his chest buffed out with allegedly the the padding and the you know what I'm trying to say.
I know.
But he was a lanky guy in the mugshot. So I don't believe for a second that it was him. It feels like a bit of a Lee Harvey Oswald situation. So there's just a lot of loose ends to tie up.
Yeah, I didn't spend a whole bunch. We're gonna get into those things, and I think this is actually great because you're zoomed in and looking at the aspects, like who and why, the motive behind these. Is this true? What is the truth? And I'm backed up looking at the abstract of being like, Jesus, where's our country? And these two opinions are going to come together in a phenomenal zone. I am going to do one thing I've never done on this live or in any video I've ever made before. Not because I'm like, this guy, he's abhorrent, he doesn't need to be platformed. Just because it's we're going to play a Nick Fuentes clip. And my real issue I have with Nick Fuentes is I have a hard time taking young people seriously And so I just don't listen to him. So
Yeah.
it's like he's a young guy and he doesn't know anything about life. And so every time someone's like, he's speaking true, I'm like, yeah, sure. Well, what, who cares? But he doesn't know anything about life.
Fed
And so
Groiper.
I've just dismissed him outright. But he
Yeah.
has this video clip, and I want to get your opinion on because I have my thoughts on this. And this is kind of it was just an interesting because it was the first time I sat back and I was like, I think this is why this guy's charismatic. So let's watch this thing real quick.
Your gut reaction to seeing someone take a bullet in the neck and their face explode, and their young children run up to them because they were afraid of the noise. If your reaction was to grin and celebrate, you must be defeated. You must be destroyed. You must be identified, you must be isolated, and you must be eradicated from our society. Not Democrats, not leftists, not liberals, those people that would celebrate in that moment. That is pure evil, pure malice. There is no charity in a person's heart. I don't care who it is, who sees anybody get their neck exploded and celebrate like that. That's the kind of evil we're dealing with. That's the kind of evil that has taken over our society. It has become too common. People have let it fester.
All right, man. What are your thoughts on that clip? I've got a ton.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure in continuity where this was published, within the context of his show, because I know that he came out recently with also a very somber kind of follow-up to the assassination, where he said, like, my friends, my fans, my followers, do not fall for this trap. They're going to be eliciting a response to the left in the form of in-kind violence. Do not fall for it. We are, people of God. We respect all of God's children in this earth, and we're not calling for more violence and the death of other people. So I mean, this seems more on brand with what his content typically is. I do know a lot of people that watch him. I'll see clips in the algorithm, and some resonate, some of it is kind of a throwaway, but I mean, I think that it was spot on. He's not calling for the bipartisanship delineation there. He's clearly explaining that this is a demonic possession that festers within people, because I've seen people over the last 4 or 5 years go off the rails on specific targeted issues such as the Charlie Kirk assassination and so on and so forth, that completely defy everything that they stood for prior. They just completely go antithetical, and it feels like a possession. And there's really no other way to kind of describe it. And I think that's what he's alluding to.
I think so too. That was the thing that popped out at me, because I was like, it's Nick Fuentes. There's always it's always drama. Again, like I was like, to me, he's still a kid.
Yeah, man.
And so I just kind of take everything with a grain of salt. But that where he was like delineated from the bipartisan left-right thing.
Yeah.
He's like, this. I'm not talking liberals or Democrats or this. I'm talking about these people. And even like, I guess I'm an adult, so when he says eradicate, I'm like, well, is he calling for that? But is he calling? That was the difference. Is like, well, we're not going to war with Democrats, or we're not going to war with liberals, or really just lefties in general. It's whatever this thing is, and it's exactly what you said. Like this weird. It's just, man, it's inhumane. Like it's just something. Like it's demonic. It is something wild. And I would like to chalk it up to like brainwash. Well, they've been brainwashed by MSNBC to say Trump's a racist and a fascist. So which is true. They've definitely been brainwashed. But at what point in time do you sit back and you do like reflect? Because I've said things, I've made fun of Joe Scarborough in ways where I was like, that's pretty rough if he would watch it. Like, I'm a nobody. Yeah, it's easy. But I've said things and I was like, that's not a really Christian way. Like, I'll think about things. But that's like a part of humanity where you go, wow, was I being a little harsh? But the things I'm seeing online, I was like, maybe it's clickbait, but dude.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm wondering. Because the free speech thing, where do you stand? Because obviously he's not calling for the eradication.
Right.
Well, he came back. He's like, we're not talking about violence. But what has happened in the past 3 days is people have started to take these videos of these people celebrating and mocking and all that, and doxing them, calling their employees, putting it out there for people to call their employees and get them fired. I've had a pretty consistent stance on this one. I'll go and say my stance, because even back in 2018, 2020, I never liked the idea of cancel culture because I just thought it was ridiculous. But I never could justify it being a problem in my head because even when I remember specifically one case, it was Gina Carano. And I
Mhm.
was like, she shouldn't have been fired for what she said because it was so milk toast. But I would never hold a gun to an employer and say, you can't fire this person because that's against freedom.
It's
And
against
so
free markets, right? Right.
yeah, free market. So I was like, I'm for Gina to say whatever she wants, but if she gets fired, that's
Yep.
because the employer can make those decisions freely.
Mhm.
So freedom of speech is that. And I got in an argument with a guy I know online this week. He was like, "Well, you didn't always have this stance." I was like, "No, no, no, no. I've always had this stance because when I look at like firing paradigms, I always consider. I don't just consider the employee a person and then the employer a corporation. I'm a business guy. Like I know what it's like to be a boss. And when
Yep.
someone does something I disagree with, I need the freedom to be able to fire them under any circumstance. And and they need to have the freedom to quit under any circumstance because it's not slavery. And so that's normally my principle base. Now, where are you at on this?
On the free speech in particulars with this
Yeah,
case.
free speech consequences. Basically, what is it called? Like what's the cost? Like I need your help with this one because
Yep.
I am like I said, I wasn't against I'm against cancel culture and that it's a bad sign of a broken society. Like
Mhm.
society's broken. But
Yep.
in theory, cancel culture is just it's just societal justice. And if you're a right winger in a left wing society, you're gonna have to work your way around that. And if you're a left winger in a right
Yep.
wing society, you're just gonna have to
Yep.
figure it out. Um,
Well, I will always sustain to the day I die that I'll be, a free speech maximalist. There's speech you hate, but there's no hate speech. Doesn't exist.
hate speech, exactly.
Yeah. I think a lot of what you're seeing in terms of like the right doxing and using the tools that were previously at the woke left's disposal is just more of a retributional standpoint because this seems to be like a red line. It seems to be like the right's MLK moment or something hyperbolic as such. I think, something we talked about in the pre-show that we kind of alluded to is that the reason that you don't have a right-wing overthrow besides J6, which we know is fed and infiltrated,
Yeah.
in hindsight, is that, well, everybody's that's on the right is raising their kids or at church or at work. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're not going to be in the streets. They shower every day.
Yeah.
It's so I think this is just like a bubble that was overdue to burst from that aspect in terms of like this retributional stance. Like the gloves are finally off with some factions of the right because they had a young, fresh 31-year-old that was speaking to a new generation of young right wingers
Yeah.
to broadcast the message. So I think in that regard, I think they're just picking up the tools that were already left in their disposal. And I agree with you. Like I never wanted to partake in this pendulum swing. It's like I'd rather
Yeah.
get in front of that ball bearing and kind of grab onto it and slow its inertia, opposed to seeing it weaponized against me from wherever standpoint that the law exists. So
Yeah, I'm in exact agreement. Hold on, I'm looking for something right this moment. How do I get there?
And while you're pulling this up too, I think just to continue to belabor the point, even when I see some of the disgusting people online talking about, live by the sword, die by the sword, and these were the things that he would subscribe to as a 2A advocate to the death of him, is that let them say it, let them put their colors out there, because I know exactly who I can rely on and who I can turn my head to and be able
Yeah.
to swivel over, and that's kind of the moral of it.
Yeah, actually, I 100% agree. So that was the thing about like when I got in this discussion with this guy, and he was like, "Well, what do you mean you didn't like cancellations?" But I was like, "No, no, I didn't like the government interfering, like
Right.
setting up OSHA to be like, well, if you don't get the vax, you get fined. That's government interference."
Yep.
But if I live in the north, I live in New York. Um, it was like, well, you shouldn't have to police your words. I was like, no, if I want to continue in society, I'm gonna participate because, to be honest, it's their society. I'm in a minority. And so
Yep.
I'm gonna participate as far as I can. Be like, well, you don't have free speech. It's like, no, I can say whatever I want. But
Mhm.
if they don't want to serve me coffee
Yep.
because I'm, walking in with a, whatever Confederate flag, like I always do, wearing the Confederate flag, and they don't want to serve me coffee because they don't like what I'm wearing, That's their choice. They have a right to do so.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, what about back in the 1960s when there was separate water fountains and black people couldn't go into a room? I was fine with that too. I'm fine. I know it sounds awful. I'm fine with that. I know I'm not fine with the idea of. I think to be honest, I think segregation was dumb. But I still, if you're an employee
People,
and you're like, hey, we don't want your kind here. Okay, you're not getting their money. That's your choice.
Yeah.
Fine. You're losing out. And so that's how I've always thought. Like, let the employer, let the employee, let the customer make the choice.
Yep.
Everybody gets a choice here. You can be a stupid business
right.
and make those calls, and that's fine. It was just when the government comes in and says, hey, you can't leave your house.
Yep.
Or this was another great example. Sorry, I'm ranting again, but the Twitter came up and it was like, yeah, back when before Elon owned it, you would get your thing deleted for saying free speech. And I remember the arguments of being like, Twitter's the marketplace of ideas, and I understand that. But still, at the end of the day, Twitter was owned by one person. And if you said something that person didn't disagree with, they had a right to kick you off. What they didn't have a right to do was listen to the coercion of the government saying, hey, this is misinformation. You need to delete this or the government's going to come after you. That's where, okay, now we don't have free speech.
Yeah.
Now we don't have free speech because now they're threatening a company. The government at the barrel of a gun is threatening a company to participate how the company might not want to. And so this defining line of like, what's free speech? And, I guess, you're going to block me on Twitter now? I guess you weren't about free speech. It's like, no. No one knows what free speech really means. And no one understands that every speech has consequences. Good ideas have good consequences. Everything has consequences.
Yep.
It just shouldn't be, the government should not have any play in that whatsoever.
Yeah.
But society is totally allowed to.
Yeah, and I mean, we were just talking about like, people thriving and being prosperous, even despite segregation. It's like, well, I think there's still cyclical elements of segregation in the commerce that we exist in now. I mean, there's black-owned businesses only supporting black-owned, patrons and consumer bases. It happens on the line. It happens, everywhere. We just kind of pass it by, and it's kind of become mainstreamed. It exists in housing. It exists in universities.
You can't do it if you're white.
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
Well, and the uncomfortable truth too is that, like Black Christian families thrive for decades in the 50s until Lyndon Baines Johnson took over. No one wants to talk about that because it's very uncomfortable, but they made it work, and they did it, despite generational trauma, through the slave trade. So, that's a whole nother conversation, another night of discussion, but it's worth it. It's an important thing to kind of hearken to.
And it applies to all of that's what I'm saying. Like, it applies to this free speech thing. I want to bring up one thing because we were talking about it in general, like the consequences of free speech. And as much as I'd like to, I want to get your thought on this. This will be another thing. The other thing that I ran into this, dude, I'm just hashing my dirty laundry with you, Alex. I hope you're cool with that. I'm like, here's another issue I'm dealing with. So I run in a lot of libertarian circles like you do as well.
Yep.
And one thing I got used to, one of the sayings, there's like every libertarian has common sayings like taxation is theft. And one of them is it's not right versus left. It's the government versus you. So that concept,
of course,
different iterations.
Yep.
And after this week, I never really thought about much of it. I was like, yeah, right, left, it changes a lot. But there are some staunch, like that gap between right and left, the reason why it can blend and things can move and people can shift. And the right wing has a whole gay caucus now. It's like, all right, I think that gap that we saw, the divide, I think the shot that got Charlie and the videos that came out has cracked that divide so wide open to where you might be mentally ill if you weren't participating. And noticing that there is definitely a drastic version of what the right looks like versus what the left looks like.
Sure.
And I never spent, I know, like we all know that in the back of our heads. But it was very well articulated by none other than Don Jr. He put a tweet out, I think it was like today or yesterday. And I was like, well, I'll be damned. I want to look at this thing real quick. Let me move this over here. So this is Don Jr. and he tweets, Anyone notice that when one of our heroes was assassinated in cold blood in front of thousands of people, including his wife and young kids, that not a single store in America had been boarded up their windows? That tells you everything you need to know. And he just left it.
Yep.
Dude, he just left it. And I texted a group of buddies of mine, and I was like, everyone kept trying to tell you that, there is no real, right and left. It's not about right and left. We need to bring unity. I was like, but these ideologies are vastly different in just the reactions to certain things like this.
Mhm.
Tell me I'm wrong. Help me out here, because I'm starting to.
No,
Okay.
you're not wrong. You're just not quite finished with the point. So I guess what I would say is
Help me out.
we're certainly not the same in terms of like the left is all for destruction because that's kind of the central kind of core of it epitomizes their frustrations with their world. They hate their dad, they hate their job, whatever it may be. Um, they hate society writ large because they're the crab grabbing the other crab, kind of getting out of the bucket. Um, but yeah, I mean, the right immediately goes to candlelight vigil, being in their church, hugging one another, loving their neighbor, loving their stranger. The ones you see, the Grabbers online that are calling for doxing and stuff, that's a whole different category of right wing reactionary kind of responses to these things, and plenty of it is harmful. Don't get me wrong. I think we were talking about prior to that. Oh shoot, the point has just left me.
Well, what texted the group, I said, it's the government versus you, and it's right versus left. Like, it's both. And then at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of for the longest time, it's been the government versus you and the left versus you, with the government allowing the left to get out of jail for 14 times so we can stab you on the bus. And that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, they've teamed up, the media's teamed up, and so it's all of these things pretty much against you. And that's kind of how I was trying to explain it. It's not that there isn't a right and left. There's very much a right and
Yeah.
left. And
Well,
so,
it feels like the table's kind of like leveled out because we've talked about institutional decline and crumbling erosion of trust within institutions for the past 5 years. Well, it's like the left ran all the institutions. So that institutional bind on control with the narrative and the message is completely gone, which is why they're
Yeah.
going after the young influencers. They're going after, all the things that they need to do to manipulate the conversation online. That's why they're going to the lengths that they are through those outlets. I think you wanted to allude to pivoting into Iryna's story a little bit.
I do, yeah. So I want to talk about that because that one didn't have much of a like that. Does this? I couldn't really think about the free speech aspect of that, but the societal consequences of things and the reaction to it. And again, like I don't know if anybody hates the media more than I hate the media, and almost all media. You might hate them more than I do. But again, the reaction to that, because I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired of playing them on clips of them, like on the podcast. Like, I did it for over a year of just constant clips of them lying. And I was like, at what point in time is it me just kicking a dead horse? Why are these people still? How come they haven't died off already?
Right. Farming money.
Why are they still around?
Yeah.
And so, what are your thoughts on this this situation?
Well, I thought it was. I mean, I'm not saying this is perfect, but it was perfect irony to have the Charlie Kirk assassination following the Iryna Zarutska story, because it was everything that the left would shit their pants about. It was a black man surrounded by 8 black, onlookers, witnesses. It was a Ukrainian refugee, which the left has been championing that war for more than 3 years now. I think 3 years. And it wasn't with a gun, so it was with a knife, so you can't even go after the gun control bullshit. And he had 14 prior arrests. So it's an indictment on the judicial system at every single level. So it was just boom, checkbox of everything that they should be shitting their pants about. So I almost feel like the Charlie Kirk story was the thing that they needed to capstone the week to win the culture war in terms of changing the narrative prior to the week. Because that matzo ball was sitting there for 48 hours. And it wasn't until the Charlie Kirk assassination that I was probably even earlier. I think Iryna was the weekend, or was Monday?
Well, no, that actually happened. Yeah, you're right. It happened 3 weeks ago, and it didn't start blowing.
It didn't start
until
getting
Monday.
into the system. Correct. Yep.
Yeah, so it makes me think like they had a cap on it pretty quick, and then somebody with the following got a hold of it, which tends to seems to be what happens.
Right, but corporate paid propagandists didn't touch it for 3 weeks. With that being said, so it was it was the social media pressure of getting it out there that was the mass mobilization campaign with populists. So I think this situation with Charlie Kirk was a mix of it was Israel involvement, and it was most likely, and it was the corporatization of the response to tailor to target and have that race war reinvigorated.
So you think with this thing, so they wanted, well, all right, here's the thing. If they wanted a race war, wouldn't it have been them that put that out? Because that video of that guy attacking her on the bus, that wasn't to bring people together.
No. That was to spark a race war. But it took 3 weeks to foment, so they had to take out another one, which would be Charlie Kirk, in order to give the left and whoever was, a person of color to kind of get back and get some fodder and fuel to the fire.
I guess I can see it. To me, I'm gonna be honest, man. To me, it just feels like completely separate. Just bad timing. But I'm a bit naive. I'm not much of one to I notice, but you gotta like draw it. You gotta tell it to me like a 5-year-old.
Yeah, I could be reaching. I'm not saying that there's a correlation there, but I look at the we're pattern noticers, and I'm just
that's it.
Noticing the patterns of what has the highest, the highest frequency of reaction.
Well, I think the fact that both those, pattern, I think it was manipulated. It could be easily, but man, I have a hard time not thinking it's just a spiritual lineup. Like the spirit in the ether was like, here's the powder keg's been set. We need a few things to rock this boat, and that's why I'm like, I don't know why. All of a sudden, 3 weeks later, this video gets, and dude, the fact that it was Alex Jones who subpoenaed the whole video, and that was, it's not even like it's brutal, but when you watch it, I mean, I remember the next day were like, I still have the image of her like curled up, like, and I was like, this is traumatizing. And then, dude, the next day, my wife walked in, she was like, Charlie Kirk just got shot, and I was like, no way. And I was like, I hope not. And I opened up, and the first video was
everywhere
right there, and I was like, oh my god, just watch the guy hopefully not die. And
like it was the roof perspective.
Yeah, it was way up high, and I was like, okay. I was like, I saw the shirt, and I was like, oh man, that looked bad, but I can't really tell. So I scrolled down, and of course, on Twitter on your phone, you don't see what the video is. You click the link.
You're right.
And it was the zoomed in one, and I was like, oh no. And she was like, what? And I was like, I don't know if he's coming back after that.
No, that was instant death. That was a garden hose of Kool-Aid. That was bad.
Yeah, dude. I was bad, like, man, I don't. She was like, no, are you serious? And I was like, I mean, there's medics right there, maybe. I was like, but that don't look right.
No, that's not a medic.
I kind of knew.
Yeah.
And so even at that point, but yeah, I think the bus, but dude. Oh, so we got this clip just to lighten it up a little bit. This is someone made this. I wish I could give them credit. Maybe it's in it. But this summed up this is my only comedic relief I have for this entire episode. So I want you to see this, and we'll get our thoughts. We might not have any thoughts other than just applaud. But check this out. Oh, not this one. Let me go to it.
Rachel, a black man stabbed a white female refugee from Ukraine for no reason. And now people think it was somehow racially motivated because he said, I got that white girl. That makes no sense, Brian. Do people not understand this man is a victim because he's black? You're exactly right, Rachel. This man is a victim. In fact, he's been a victim 14 times. Luckily, every time there was an incident, the courts felt bad because he's black and let him go. Now social media is trying to paint him as some kind of vicious killer just because he's black. Oh, please. That woman must have done something to provoke him, right?
Well, obviously, Rachel, she's white.
It's pretty hard to tell in the video. She appears to just be sitting there minding her own business, not doing anything at all. But then I saw she's wearing a hat. So I'm thinking the back of her hat must have said the N-word or something.
Ooh, I think you're right, Brian. That must be why the victim felt scared and attacked her.
There's only only one way to know for sure. We have to speak to an expert on victims. There's only one man alive who could prove we're correct. So you think you can help us identify what was on that woman's hat, Jussie? Of course I can. I'm Jussie Smollett. Nobody knows victims better than I do. I'm actually glad you came to me because I did a little research before you got here. It's clear that this woman provoked her victim attacker, but it's not because of what was on her hat. Then what was it? You should prepare yourselves. The answer is far worse than you could ever possibly imagine. That black man was provoked because hundreds of years ago white people had slaves.
Oh my God, no wonder the victim was so violent. That woman was white and white people had slaves a long time ago. Rachel, I think we have what we're looking for. Rachel, a black man stabbed a white female refugee from
dude. I was like, this is a little too spot on where it's almost not funny because it's almost as if it's exactly what happens. And that was the front.
Yeah, it's every fucking CNN writer's room every day.
every time, and that's why I'm like, no one can watch this anymore. That I would assume. Like,
The
I
mental
don't understand.
gymnastics. Yeah,
I would again. I was like, no one. We've won the culture war enough to where, like, can we just call? And you don't even have to make it. Here's where I get stuck. It's because I'm not even a race guy. Like, races don't mean anything to me, really.
Me neither.
I have friends, and I've been in chat rooms and groups that are probably ran by feds that are those kind of groyper kind of people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you guys are fed. Like, you're not fooling me. You're all feds. They're probably not, but in my head, anytime someone says stuff, you're a fed.
Did he give you a little hat turn like this too?
Yeah.
Stateside.
Dude, I saw that too. But every time I saw it, I was like, I'm just not a collectivist.
Yeah, me neither.
I just don't react in groups. I just look at everything pretty individual. And people are like, oh, well, there are, the groups look at you like, and I was like, I don't care. I don't care what people look at me like. If people look at me and they're a white guy, so they assume I'm a white Republican, that's fine. I don't care. It's not my responsibility. I don't care.
Yeah.
And so I just refuse to look at all people that way. But some things I look at, and instead of being like, these black people are getting out of control, I have a different take. I was like, that's a demon. Like, I know a mental illness or demon. Like, this is just not, it seems like it's sparking up a lot, and it has been for a long time, but just stuff like that. Like, this is just wild.
Well, it's just the institute of the courts, like, letting everybody down in the civilization by letting, violent crime, continue to run wild. But again, we're dealing with individuals. We're not dealing with the collective. I don't subscribe to that. I've been in a minority in every goddamn environment I've been in my whole life, whether it was retail, working in a tattoo shop. It's never been an issue. I always deal with people on the basis of their merits. It's all things that we are unspoken that we already understand. But
everyone knows this.
Right. But no, I just think, I mean, that's the race baiting that the corporate press always wants to do. It really doesn't seem like a mockery anymore. It just seems like what it is. I think it's pretty hilarious. It's just a sad reality that's the everyday.
Yeah, but here's the other another thing that does the paradigm right and left. Dude, I'm stuck on this. Like, I'm fairly convinced that gap between left and right is getting wider, and people are starting to jump and be like, oh, no, because I saw people that were like, look, I'm a Democrat, but they watched the same videos I did, and I don't know if it's real and they were just cloud chasing, but it seemed like people were jumping off that ship, being like, I can't.
I think it's the age bracket. The people dying out that are the boomers and older, they're going to hold on to it because they're plagued by ghosts. They still follow corporate propagandists. But the people like under 65, it starts to drop off, particularly on the topic of Israel. But you could take anything under the sun, whether it's guns or free speech or abortion. And I think the populace, the people 30 and under, such as myself, it's like there's really no indistinguishable thing. I mean, how many times have we talked about the sway of 8 years going from Bernie bro to a MAGA person or vice versa? Like the pendulum swing is so viscous. It's so liquid. It's very easy to go one way or another depending on the 4-year term and what happens. I just don't think that people are looking for those labels anymore at all.
I don't. I think we're gonna have to get more defined with it, because even like a while back, I don't remember when this was, but I think it was after the election, and some things were like falling apart, and people were like, we might need to abandon like after the Kamala thing, the Democrat thing is so toxic. We might have to just rebrand. I think I was watching a video clip
Yes.
say that. And I made this statement a while back, and I still stand by this statement. Like the Democrats that are normal that I know that are like, yeah, I'm a Democrat, I vote Democrat. But they have Republican ideals now, or at least right wing ideals, not Republican, because that gap. Yeah. And it's that like Clinton's a right winger now, bro. Hillary Clinton's a right winger.
By the Overton window, yeah.
So like this whole thing, and so a while back I said that we should just get rid of let the lefty Democrats, the ones who celebrate Charlie's murder, the ones chopping genitals off children, like let them have their own party, and then let's just let all the Democrats hop over the Republicans, and we'll split the right wing into Republican versus Libertarian, and the adults can have a conversation because those are the only.
Yeah, we already kind of have caucuses for this purpose. They just don't hold institutional power because they're not winning the majority of the parties. It's always whoever could do the lowest common denominator bidding of the institutions, of the lobbyists. So I think
the freedom caucuses aren't getting checks from. They're not getting checks. We'll just leave it there.
Yeah, no. So, you're trying to tell me they're not getting subsidized by Southern Poverty Law Center?
Yeah, exactly. And I just said like they got to do everything grassroots, which is not unfeasible. I think at this point in time, like the quote unquote what's a lefty, I have a hard time not just flash forwarding between MSNBC being like, well, we don't know what the motive of the guy on the bus was, and might
have been a fan that shot up in the air by accident.
Might have been a fan that shot their gun in the air. It's like, they're like, why is the right wing upset with this girl? They didn't care about Ukraine a second ago. It's like, no. We didn't want to send money to Ukraine. It's not like we hate Ukrainians. What are you talking? And they just, just either, and I can't tell if they just think like, hey, all these right wingers don't want to send money to Ukraine or Israel. Like, oh, that one's an anti-Semite, and he hates Ukraine. He wants Ukrainians to die, apparently. Right. And you're like, whoa, what is this? What is this? This is that it's the Jordan Peterson meme all over again. And it's
they're binary thinkers for everything except for their gender. It's pretty funny.
That's perfect. That is true. Yeah, I mean it's exhausting, and that's why I struggle with episodes anymore now, because I'm like, I can't play this. And then I'm left and this week, obviously, I had plenty of clips, but I'm just left with that freaking nonsense. Check this out. There's another one, dude. This example, exactly. This came out today. Look at this tweet. This is Hollywood Reporter. MAGA blames South Park for Charlie Kirk assassination as Comedy Central pulls the episode. Dude, I saw so many people like, no, we love South Park and we're happy they made fun of Charlie Kirk. What are you talking about? Like major influencers. Right. I couldn't find one right winger was like, to hell with South Park.
Why wouldn't they be going after Simpsons long time ago if they have all these predetermined freaking outcomes?
Yeah. But I mean, even but this there's no basis for this. Where did they search? Did they go to Reddit to find one right? What right wingers on Reddit other than a Fed? Like, what is
a 50-year-old cat mom of 3 definitely wrote that article. There's no way that's a sentiment of anybody.
We got Nerderotic coming in. It says Access Media can't die fast enough. Captain Ancapistan says I saw literally not one account say this. I saw one account say this and they got blasted for it. Brian McAdams, complete and utter bullshit. Our Jordan MAGA needs to take responsibility for their actions because Gropers was one of their own. Is this like what is happening? No. Everyone blames the media pushing character assassination pieces and lies. It's freaking wild. I hate them so much, dude. I freaking hate the media. Oh,
they do it to themselves, though. They're just gonna go. They're gonna go down like the flaming shit that they are.
Not fast enough. I don't know how people can sit with it, man.
The only way I thought that it would go down faster is if RFK Jr. got in there and he actually cut off the lifeblood, which is the pharma advertising money. Like if you actually did that, you would see all these corporate, news fronts cut. They'd be shutting down tomorrow.
Yeah, but you'd see a lot of podcasters, right and left, all of a sudden get brand new sets and fancy cameras, and whole new segments.
Industry plants in the podcast scene. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised pharma hasn't shifted. I haven't seen one single Tucker Carlson yet with a pharmacy. Or I'm trying to think I'm trying to think of a mainstream. Joe Rogan, I guess, is all I got. Theo Von's not pushing shots right now, so that.
Well, Sean Ryan's a Fed.
Is he? Oh wait, yeah. But he came
sure.
from a Fed. But he's also openly a Fed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like Midas Touch is definitely a freaking government show too. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah. I also think Nick is a Fed, but that's just because it just makes sense to me. Anyone that extreme.
I mean, that's why Gavin Newsom started his show, because he sees the writing on the wall. He knows that he's got to make this hard pivot in 4 years. I think he had Charlie Kirk on. Like, he knows where the eyeballs are. It's just he has to make this desperate pivot from a PR front, because he's murdering everybody in California in short order. I don't understand how he could even get to the primary. Like that's a whole another episode, but that's wild in itself. The mass delusion that people have such short-term memory loss is wild.
I don't think it's memory loss, dude. I think they block. Like, that's my thing. Is I think
Munchausen.
No. What's the word where it's trauma block? There's a specific word where you're trauma blindness. I don't know. There's some kind of a term for it where if something triggers your trauma, you almost don't even see it. Like, you hallucinate something not being there.
It's like dissociative disorder or something.
Yes, definitely like that. Yeah. Like, something triggers and you're like, what do you mean there's a car coming my way? There's no car, and there's literally a car coming. I think a lot of people have been brainwashed by the media and by their culture, and no one really talks about this that often. Well, at least I don't. Maybe it is. Ecosystem reinforcement. This is the one thing and everyone rags on libertarians, but they do have one thing right, is that they're never allowed in any ecosystem. And so they're constantly on the outside to see all of them.
Yep.
And so but those are also the same people who voted for Trump and won't shut up about the Epstein files, myself included. And even after I saw this too. It's like, oh, Charlie died, and everyone's like, forgot about the Epstein. We didn't forget nothing. We could be mad at the Charlie thing, and we can still demand our Epstein files.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with people like, hey, if this doctor is happy Charlie called, I'm fine with you calling the employment, being like, hey, your boy's out here on TikTok dancing to Charlie. And they're like, oh, really? We should fire him. Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. What I'm not fine with is the government telling Facebook that, these particular words should not be said.
Right.
Like those, I can do both at the same time. It's actually fairly easy when you're principled.
Yeah, the Pegasus level backdoor bullshit too. Like,
wild.
Yeah.
Let's speaking of the government interfering in anything, I want to switch to this because we went super long on that the Charlie thing. Let me switch over here.
I kind of blended
this
into.
You blame what?
I just said it kind of blended into Iryna and a couple other things too.
Yeah, that's true. That was kind of the point. All this stuff should somewhat blend in. I'm not going to read an article. We're going to watch a video like a bunch of Zoomers. That's how I'm going to go. Let's see if this works. Hold up. Where's the volume? Oh, there you are. It just works. Are they going to talk at all? Okay, I'm just going to pause it and read it out. So basically, they're covering up. So Banksy went out to the Court of Judges in the UK and spray painted. Let me see if I can find it. Spray painted this, which is a protester being attacked by a judge with a gavel. Did you see this?
Yeah, I saw this. Yeah,
I used it as the back of the thumbnail. And then in UK fashion, they this is what this video is showing, that they covered it up. They put a blockage there so they could try scrubbing it off the wall. Why is this not wanting to play? So this is them. They put a block sign up so people couldn't actually see it. Basically censoring what Banksy put there. And then they scrubbed it off but left the burned in mark. of it, which everyone is saying that that actually speaks louder
Yeah.
than Banksy's actually first piece. Of being like, yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
don't want you to know, they don't want you seeing, and they don't want you speaking up about you not being able to speak up. Literally, they don't want you to say that you can't say things. And this is like dangerous cancel culture, quote unquote. This is not the culture. It's literally an authoritative system saying you're not allowed to speak about these particular issues. Man, it friggin' blew my mind that they're getting away with this stuff.
It's a
The video goes on.
it's a based 4D chess move on Banksy's part. If they scrubbed it away and now it's infinite.
Do you think so? This is what they are. Do you think he did that on purpose? He's done this and they've removed him before. And so do you think that he's like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. They're gonna remove it. It's gonna be a mark of it. Because that shadowed visage of it is probably one of his best pieces. And it's been scrubbed over.
Well, he understands form and he understands the human figure just as good as any other artist, whether he creates it, in a Vermeer type of painting, to a technical standpoint. No, I think he understands, the mechanics of like the process and action as an artist. So when he's putting this work out there, he's considering the action that it takes to present it, to put it on display, the reaction that it may be taken away, just as like the piece that he had that was shredding through the gallery, through the frame. I think he's thinking about these performatively just as much as he's thinking about them depicted. So I think that there probably was some 4D chess kind of baked into the shadow that was created from the scrubbing away,
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with that and say, yeah. I'm gonna go. He is a smart guy. And I don't know if I follow all, like, I don't know if I pay attention to him enough to know exactly what he's doing. But this is what the article says. It says the latest mural dropped by graffiti artist Banksy, which appeared on the side of the Royal Courts of Justice building in the central London over the weekend, has been scrubbed away by court authorities, never to be seen again. The mural depicted a judge with a traditional white wig and a black robe striking a protester with his gavel as the protester's sign is marked with Banksy's signature, blood splattered. The pseudo-anonymous England-based artist posted the picture on Instagram with caption reading, Royal Courts of Justice, London. It was seen as a commentary on the newly passed law banning support for Palestine action, which has drawn criticisms from rights groups and legal experts over free speech concerns. Some 900 people were arrested in protest in London against the law just 2 days before Banksy's new mural. So yeah, it sounds like it was he was doing this on purpose. Man, the more I think about it, it might just be divinely inspired. Or it was just luck of the draw. But I love the fact that the shadow of it's left there. Good on Banksy. Even if it was anything, I saw a bunch of people taking it, and someone put the cross of England, or the St. George's cross, photoshopped it on there, and a bunch of people were just changing the protest sign to like, which is it could have been anything. You could put anything, and it says the same thing when it comes to England, unless they allow it, which England allows, like this very small, we'll use the word minority of things, to go with. But if you stand up against them, you speak out, you share a meme, they're gonna arrest you. And so Banksy's on it, dude. I like it.
I almost wonder if like he's hand in hand with the government sometimes because of the fact that he's never been caught and gets all these prime real estate locations to have this high visibility rate. I always think back to like when I remember I felt like the sky was falling, not because I'm like big into abstract expressionism, but like when I found out exposed that Jackson Pollock was like a Fed infiltrated painter. Yeah, like when I found that out, and then I started getting into like some other artists that may have been like part of like that. I think Rothko might have been in there too. I was like, man, there's no lengths to and degrees to which they won't get involved. But I definitely think this was premeditated on Banksy's part, like you said. And then, great art of the highest level always, is codependent on the viewer, the beholder, to have the interactive act element to the piece. So this would just be like a primary example of that, where it's people are projecting on it what they want to see in that shallowy silhouette of what it still exists there after it's been scrubbed away.
A genius. It's like I hate to be. Oh, it's a genius piece, but it was.
This genius excuse with Banksy I can actually get behind. Before I heard it, I was like, whatever, fuck him.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've always appreciated it, but I was never I like the style. Like I like graffiti style. Like I use a lot of that. Obviously, even the guy behind me. I use a lot of that, and I appreciated that. But I never was like, I was just doing it on walls. Like, what? Just do it. Like, I get it. Do it on a canvas. And then one time he did. He was like, "Hey, I'm going to paint this on paper and frame it," and then shredded it after it sold. And I was like, "All right, now that was pretty ballsy. That was pretty." And that's when I first was like, "Okay, I think I like this. I like what this guy's doing." Man, going against governments. This is a story that you sent me this week. I want to end it off with this guy. And this is a video, and it's got Jimmy Dore. So this is gonna, do you want to explain what's going on? Because I didn't know anything about this till you sent this to me. But I've been pretty unplugged.
I will give a teaser to the minimal amount that I know about the story. I'll do some more follow-up the following week as well on it. From what I understand is that there's been a huge fallout with some of the Nepo babies in Parliament related to some of the aristocratic families that run Nepal. And I think some of the Gen Zers are fed up with, because they got light of the exposure to with which some of these Nepo babies are like living the high life, and there's this huge wealth disparity there. So basically, long story short, the past few weeks in Nepal, these Gen Zers have been taken to the streets and basically lighting Parliament on fire, and these representatives, so-called representatives in their native country, taking them out to the streets and beating the living daylights out of them and taking them into the rivers, which I almost got off on, by the way. It made me very hard.
Oh wow! Yeah,
because that's some of the retribution that could be used here someday. But long story short, what's going on there is that they're taking matters into their own hands, and they're holding people accountable in the form of vigilantism, which we don't condone here. We just enjoy it. We don't condone it though. But we can go ahead and go ahead.
There's a stark difference before we watch this video, and I'll point out that I noticed. Again, it's these little things like the Nick Fuentes, where he differentiates between Democrats and liberals and the people. It's the same thing here. And I watched this video, and it's exactly what you said. These kids that are protesting, they're not going to their local town square and burning down businesses.
No,
and they're not fighting. They went straight to the Parliament,
right to the source.
They're going to the source. And that's like, if you could go back in 2020 and tell all the rioting mobs, which in my head makes way more sense. Why are you burning down the Starbucks and Target?
Your own neighborhood.
You're talking about a few desert, and then you're burning the desert. All you had left with that. I was like, none of this makes sense. And then I was like, oh, they were brainwashed into a psyop. Like this was planned. Oh, and now they put a stack of bricks in the middle of downtown. Okay, yeah. All right, so all this.
And before we roll the clip too, this happened almost a year ago to date, maybe a little longer, maybe like 14 months or so, in Sri Lanka, and it went under the radar unless you were like listening to No Agenda or something like that, where you have a little more information on foreign policy. But it happened in Sri Lanka a year prior, and to a lesser degree. But I just wanted to go ahead and play the clip.
Yeah, no, let's take a look at this. This is my boy Jimmy Dore.
Yes,
I freaking love Jimmy Dore.
Yep.
And he's a lefty. I don't know. No, I can't say that, dude. He's right wing now. That's how this paradigm.
Yes,
he's a right winger. He's a Nazi right wing extreme fascist racist. Here we go.
This is what a revolution looks like. So you can only push people so far. And I've always wondered what that point is in the United States, right? When half the country you can turn it up. When half the country can't afford a $500 emergency, 70 to 80% of the country lives paycheck to paycheck. 50% of wage earners earn $30,000 or less. Half the country is poor or low income. What do you call a system that takes the richest country in the world and renders half of its residents unable to afford a $500 emergency? You call that a failed system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what's happening in Nepal?
Oh, they're overthrowing it.
So their people are coming together to kind of overthrow their government in Nepal right now,
dude. So I watched it. Wait till you find out what was the trigger. I know you've seen this, but for everyone listening, the trigger's wild.
According to CNN headline, a parliament in flames, a leader toppled. Nepal's Gen Z protesters ask what comes next. So I'll give you a quick breakdown of what's happening. There's bad economic conditions. The governments are criminals, corrupts, and they're bragging about the money that they enrich themselves with. And then they shut down social media. And when they shut down the social media, Gen Z erupted.
Dude, we saw that's friggin' wild to me. Like, oh my god. So that's all it takes. Not all it takes, but like we already have the powder keg set. In America, and again, I think the Charlie Kirk thing, going back to it, and then maybe like what you said, if this is all planned and orchestrated, like they want a race war, they want riots, they want a J6 all over the place. It was all they got were people calling employers up. And like saying, hey, this person, I'm fine with it, dude. This is what I was hoping. I didn't want right wingers to take up arms. And I had an argument. He's like, well, are they going to do anything? And I was like, yeah, well, they're not going to go burn down their own businesses because all of these people own businesses. They're not going to go to their car dealership and be like, hey, Jim, I'm not going to be here Monday. He's like, well, why not? Because I'm going to burn my own place down. Like no one's going to do that. They're not going to do this. This is not how they, and of course they did. They hold vigils. They go to church now. Apparently everyone's going to church.
Yeah.
That's like a revival sparking up, and which is convenient because I mean, it's pretty known, like, and you could say what you want about Charlie, but he was pretty staunchly Christian. And I do think, I personally think he got one of the reasons why they took him out, whoever took him out. I think a big part of that was because he believed in Jesus. So he is a martyr, and blood of the martyrs, they sprout trees, dude. That is the seed of the church. That's the saying. It's the seed of the church is planted by the blood of the martyrs or something. I may have messed that one up, but yeah. Took away social media.
That was the spark.
Dude, I remember when they shut TikTok down for like a day. And some people I knew were like having problems. And then old Trumpers came in and he was like, no, we're getting TikTok back.
But I think
that might be it.
Well, the one thing, the most pertinent thing, I think, to this Jimmy Dore clip about what's going on in Nepal is that obviously it's a shorthand version of what's actually going on the ground. But what Jimmy's getting at is kind of what I'm alluding to when I proposed this video. Is just kind of like, at what cost is our free speech? Like, right. Where does it go if it's not being utilized at the highest level? Clearly these kids took matters into their own hands. It had to be social media because they were seeing these videos of these people in parliament living the high life when people can't afford basic, human necessities, a roof over their head, food, medical care. So I think it's a prelude for what's to come in this country. When you talk about like what radicalizes people under 30, it's like, well, no future to hang their hat on. That's a big start. No prospects to ever own a fucking home. Never any prospects to have a prosperous, a prosperous career where you're not working for the government for 40% of the year. Those types of things are what really radicalize people. It's amazing the willingness for the oligarchs here in America to blindly look at the second and low first world around the globe and not think that that's downstream of what's to come here. We're special on a hill that we can't have that happen here. It's like, we can definitely have that here. That's kind of like the rule of history,
I think 100%. Do you think, before we're going to go back to it, but do you think if they were to here's my problem, is I almost think that America is so lost. If they shut all social media down, I would be worried that the town centers. So. Well, I know they're not gonna, but if they shut it down, do you think people would riot against their Starbucks?
No, I don't. And now let me tell you why. I think if it's gonna be separating of wheat and the chaff. There's people that are gonna lose their mind and are either going to blow their brains out or they're going to riot in the streets and do the things that we talked about. But I think there's like kind of that 72-hour window, kind of like when food stops getting delivered to the grocery stores, where all of the chaos is the first 72 hours, and then whoever's left is going to be surviving. Yeah. And what happens is, if the social media persists after 72 hours, I think that people who are adjusted to that are going to go back to meeting up in person and texting their loved ones and grabbing coffee and having sex again and going to a baseball game or whatever the fuck it is. Like, it's going to be all that in-person stuff again, because it's going to really put the trauma of losing social media is going to put a magnified spotlight on what really matters, which is all the things that bring us that human interaction.
Yeah. And I want to get back to this, but you just said
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
This is why the government will never take it away. They'll never shut social media down, because then people will get together.
Yep.
So we won't have this issue. All right, let's go back to
and protested. And there's videos of them chasing down finance ministers with sticks, breaking into ministers' homes and beating them. There's all kinds of video. I don't know how much I'll be able to show you, but I'll give you. This is from Trending Explained. Says Nepal is trending because youth successfully forced their corrupt prime minister to resign after 4 terms and are beating corrupt ministers on the streets. That's happening. I saw a video. This is a summary of what's happening. Since 2015, when Shima Ali has been prime minister, nepotism and corruption skyrocketed. Regular citizens can't get regular jobs. All the top-paying jobs are reserved for underqualified politicians' kids or extended family members. Like Nigeria, their politicians embezzle from the national treasury without remorse. Courts no longer hold any power because of extreme open bribery. The police, military, all institutions are for sale to the highest briber. Sounds like our country. Sounds very much.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
It sounds exactly. Except our riots, it would be the kids fighting each other. We would skillfully make sure they were not attacking the precious politicians.
Yes.
That's exactly it, dude. Kurt is spot. It's exactly what we just talked about. Like, they wouldn't do this because they would only make it to where you fight each other. And again, like, that makes sense. The Charlie Kirk thing makes sense. The girl on the bus, like, they want us to fight each other. I'm happy people are not fighting each other. But you know what stops me? Here's the thing, dude. I'm going to say it again. This goes back to the point. What stops me from wanting to just go to fisticuffs, one, is my self-control. I don't like fighting. My love of Jesus and my love of my neighbor. But the other thing is that justice comes through alternatives. I like that if you're going to dance on Charlie's grave, you get fired. Now, the employer doesn't have to fire you, but if they choose to, I'm not going to complain. They have a right to. The employer has a right to look and be like, that's disgusting, get out. And you still have the freedom to find another job. And all you have to do is go get a job at CNN or MSNBC. They love dancing on right-wingers' graves. And so that's where I'm at with that one, man. He's absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. I haven't finished this. Is there more?
I would probably scrub through to some of the footage on the ground there. It's pretty wild to see some of this stuff.
Here we go.
Yep, there you go. Oh yeah.
There they are.
Wow.
Let's see. You maybe turn it up a little. Is there music? Yeah, you can turn it down. Turn it down because there's music.
Looks like Pamplona.
Yeah, wild.
For anybody at home.
So it is happening. Things are going down.
What'd you say?
I was just going to say, for anybody listening at home that's not watching, definitely watch the Jimmy Dore clip on some of this stuff that's going on in Nepal. I think it was published a few days ago. Worth watching. Go ahead.
Yeah, no kidding.
Nepal. They are raiding the ministers' houses. They're beating them in the streets.
Oh my God.
So you see that?
Wow.
They're chasing ministers. That's
unarmed.
like a
I know.
High-ranking
yeah.
official.
These are officials that they're going after. So this guy is a finance minister, and they're chasing him through a river and hitting him. So I don't want to show any more of that because I don't want to get this. I want to keep this video in good standing.
Well, this is why you'll never get the real Epstein story or any of the other secrets.
Why is that?
Because of this. Because the thought of politicians, if they ever disclose.
Oh yeah, because this would happen.
Dude, he's right. That's exactly what
Mhm.
we've all been saying. And we're like, and like right wingers, now that they, what if Trump's on, and everyone's like, no, we don't care.
This is why
We
I'll
don't
never
care.
get.
Like, well, what if the country falls apart? Then we start from truth and start over. Because right now we're being run by satanic pedos. And I don't know what to do about that, but we need to just release the file. Uh, Damn to anybody on it. Like, let's go. Let's go. But he's right. It would be like this. And again, like, I'm not a violence guy. I want to live in whatever society I keep seeing in, like, Back to the Future. Like the
I don't.
80s.
Yeah, I don't partake in violence because I certainly have no interest in it, and I'm a man of God. But I would be lying to you if I did not take any joy in retributional kind of
Yeah.
anger.
Yeah, right. And
Where it's
how do
just-
we do that? And how we used to do it, Alex, how we used to do it is we used to win arguments.
Yep.
And the way you win arguments is you get your facts straight, you speak the truth, you know it in your gut what you're talking about,
Yep.
and then you can dialogue and you can win the argument and hopefully win your opponent over.
Yep.
But now that feels like it's off the table too, dude.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep doing it. Look, my advice to everybody watching and listening is we like, I like what Charlie Kirk was. I'm not gonna go to campus, not because I'm afraid of being shot, it's just because I can't stand college kids. I'm not gonna do that, but I'll continue to have these debates, these conversations online civilly. I don't know if I've ever just crashed out online in an argument. I don't argue online. Even people I know who are completely diametrically opposed to my views, I'd save that for a back channel or a
It's
text
the one.
message.
Yeah, it's the one thing I don't do that I will never do, just because the fact that it's a zero-sum thing with some of the shit lives here in the Northeast, and I would debate anybody on anything in person, absolutely, anytime.
Yeah, I agree. I would. Well, that's what I'm saying. I would totally do that. Even up here, like, I'll speak up a few times just to kind of check. But what I've noticed, and this will be the last thing I'll say, being in the Northeast, leftists and liberals and Democrats, they are very comfortable saying any of their beliefs out loud and expecting you to believe the same thing.
Yeah.
I live inside of someone else's echo chamber.
Yeah.
And it's wild for somebody outside of it to constantly hear, and I understand that. And I don't know what it's like for a lefty to live around a bunch of, redneck Republicans. I'm sure. Well, no, I do know what it's like because I have a ton of what used to be lefty views. I used to have, like, free speech and stuff.
Right.
I'm an artist, like I've lived in Texas. I know what it's like to be the libertarian artist who's like, hey, can't we just leave people alone? That guy in front of a bunch of right wingers. Guess what? That's a right wing thing now, Alex. I don't know if you know, you're a right winger because you want to leave people alone.
I must have been under a rock the whole time.
Yeah. No,
know.
we both have been. Dude, I think we have gone pretty good with this episode.
Great.
It was somber, it was tense. I always I love talking to you, and I appreciate you being on here to walk me through some of these things. You didn't change my mind. That's the only downside. I'm still on board. I had a buddy of mine. He was like, because I told him about the cancel culture thing. He was like, I didn't ask whether you allow, like, you think cancel culture should be legal or allowed. He goes, I asked if you supported it. And I was very honest. And I said, basically, cancel culture is social justice. It's a society saying this is abhorrent. We don't allow this. And that can go in either direction. Like, if it's a lefty society, be like, we don't allow Make America Great Again. Whatever you want to say. Your white nationalists hate. If that society says they don't allow it, they're going to cancel you. They're not going to hire you because they don't want you at their cashier wearing a MAGA hat because they know it's going to be sales. Right wing has the ability to do it too. The only reason I support the right wing one is because many of the right wing ideals match up with my own, and I want to enforce whatever I enforce. I want to uphold and support my own ideals. Everyone does. Everyone does that. It's the same reason why libertarians say taxation is theft. Well, why are you saying taxation is theft? Because it's my ideal, and I want to uphold that ideal.
My fucking money.
Exactly. I mean, I got reasons behind it.
Yeah,
well, what, I'm not going to call, if someone says taxation is, the price of living in society, I'm not going to call up their employer and be like, do you hear what this Aryan fascist said that taxes are a part of a society. Do you know he likes social contracts?
The easiest one on that with the taxation is theft, and I'll just wrap with this is like you talk to like a gay couple who's like super progressive, and they're like, "Hey, do you hate paying taxes?" They're like, "No, I think it's good for everybody." It's like, well, you guys aren't having kids, and you pay for public schools. Does that bother you? They're like, "Hell yeah, it bothers me." I'm like, "There you go, you got it.
There you go.
You got it."
And that's how we get everybody. This is how we unite everybody. And I'm not talking unite right and left. I'm to honest, Alex. I think the uniting of right and left is done. I think there is a right absorption of anybody on the left who isn't just gone.
Isn't gone. Yep.
Yeah, and that's the absorption. But other than that, there is not ever going to be. I don't think there'll ever be a unite. Hey, we all come together because terrorists flew a plane into 7 and somehow another building 7 fell. We're not coming back. Not with the internet now, because even now we don't trust even the things that we can't trust anything. So we'll never unite under one banner. Oh man, I keep ranting. I want to say this one thing. After recently Owen Schroyer left InfoWars, and I was like I hate seeing stuff like not go the way I would want it to go. Like I don't know what their thing is, but I was like, I don't like that. I get it. I don't like it. And then I'm always watching debates between this Republican and this right winger, and they're going at it, and they're like, oh, like the Nick Fuentes, the Dave Smiths, the Candace Owens versus Nick, and the Tucker. And they're always fighting. I thought this Charlie thing would have put all of that to rest. It didn't. I don't know if you noticed, but it didn't. And people were like, "Oh, you're just faking it, and you're crying fake tears, and this isn't." I was like, "All right, so that would." To me, that would have been the last sign of being like, oh, there might be unity.
Yeah.
I think we're cooked, man. I think we're cooked. As far as unity goes, I don't know what would bring other than aliens, which I'm gonna assume is demons. So even if aliens came down, we're gonna have arguments of whether or not they're actual aliens or they're demons or it's holograms and none of this is real.
The only thing that I could think of that would unite us would have to be like an Israeli false flag to take down like a building somewhere like in New York or something.
No, it won't unite us because we're all expecting it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we're already looking for the guys dancing on the rooftop. Like it's done. That would never unite us. I mean, it did one time, but never again.
We never quite found out why jet fuel melted steel beams.
Yeah, but not passports.
Not passports.
Not passports. Oh my god, dude. Anyway, dude, I absolutely love hanging out with you. Of course, we're gonna do this again. I'll hopefully back here next week with a less somber. I'd like to get back to saying jokes. I think that's what I'm good at. But man, I'm gonna be honest. I almost did a whole key change and been like, I guess this is what we're doing from here on out. We're gonna I'm just gonna say my thoughts and to damned, what it is, which I do anyway. But I just try to have more fun with it, and I've just not been in a fun mood.
Yeah.
Now that people are getting shot, it makes me not want to not make fun of and laugh and be like, oh, it's just a bite, and it makes me want to go to war, and it makes me want to do the live show and just bring all receipts and all verbal grenades I got, and just be like, all right, here we go. This is what we're doing now.
We kind of got to get back to like a Brian McWilliams kind of feel,
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm gonna try, man. We're gonna see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Go follow Alex. He's on Instagram. You have to do your tag. I don't have it pulled up or nothing.
Yeah, it's just my first initial. It's my last name.
Hold on a second. Do you have
first initial, middle initial, last name? AB Raniello. Got some great art, a lot of Liberty inspired stuff. I do book reviews. I do a sports podcast with my buddies, Yards After the Catch Pod. Check them out. We'll follow you back, I promise. And I'm doing. I'll be at the Libertarian Party convention here in Connecticut in November. So looking forward to that.
Right. Oh, dude, I appreciate it. I was trying while you were saying something. I was trying to get this to pull up. For some reason, our names are gone.
It's all good.
It did have our names on here a minute ago, and all
Remember
of a
that.
sudden they're gone. I got this thing at the bottom. Well, go ahead and everybody look at the tag at the bottom. Like and subscribe, you jabroni.
Yes.
We'll be back here next week with a ton more joke, at least one more joke than we had this week.